and realize what I'm describing is very subtle. It's almost impossible to understand intellectually. You have to really experience it. So, it is as if a light is shined on your thought, not even the thoughts, on the structure itself in your consciousness. So suddenly, and I will elaborate on this, the subject of your consciousness, so what you are, who you think you are in that moment, suddenly becomes the object. So there's a literal stepping back of identification. So you actually drop back into awareness, and suddenly the persona that you were. So oftentimes this is a lot of spiritual teachers reference the seeker, and the seeker at the moment of this realization is seen. And it's often quite hilarious. It's very funny. So if you smoke pot, people can have this, but oftentimes it takes mushrooms to break through the structure of your consciousness. So it's like you literally step back in your awareness. What it feels like. So I realize that sounds very vague. What it feels like though is as if. So here's a really good example. Have you ever lost something and you thought someone stole it? You thought someone stole it, or there was a miscommunication with someone, and then for many months, for maybe weeks, months, possibly years, you had a belief, and there was thought structures in place in which you thought they stole it, or there was judgments or whatever, or however this develops around this particular scenario. And then at one moment you find that thing that you thought you lost and you thought this person stole from you, and in that moment, in a flash of a second, you realize that the previous years, however long, it was an illusion. It was all in your mind, and that's what it feels like. It's completely liberating, and you often laugh because you realize how silly you've been. You've been so silly. So the question is, how do you get to this point where you can begin to have spiritual realizations? And what I'm describing is really a groundedness in subtle phenomena. So there's three real layers. There's growth, so just the physical existence, and you become grounded, and that's probably first. And that happened quite young for me. And then about a year and a half, over the past few years, subtle phenomena, so the structures of the ego really begin to emerge. And so then you become grounded in the seeing of the subtle phenomena, of the emotional world, of the structures of consciousness. And then the third one, which I haven't really gotten to yet, is the causal realm. So you could get completely grounded in the causal realm of awareness, so that it's all just energy moving. So you see all the structures in your consciousness. You see the soul structures, the ego structures, and then you grounded in the causal realm that pierces and penetrates through all of them. So as a human being, when you transcend the ego, you just include it, because the ego is part of the human experience. You can't get rid of it. It's still there, but you just see it so clearly. It's not you anymore. It's part of you. So hopefully that's very important. But so how do you begin to go? So this is considered vertical development. So there's horizontal development, in which you meditate and you experience states. So even eating a big meal and you experience a state, that's a state. That's a horizontal line. Let's say you meditate and do yoga, you experience samadhi. Horizontal, it's an experience. But then there is a vertical line of development in which you begin to transcend and include the structures of consciousness. So both internal, ego structures, emotional structures, and also collective external structures as well. So things like government and communities and interpersonal communication. That's why it's all included. There's nothing excluded in a true spirituality. So, how do you really get to this? How do you begin to vertically rise so that you can begin to transcend the structures in your consciousness? And I would say meditate every day for about 20 minutes of silence. Just be with what is arising. No need to figure it out. Anything out. Meditation is not the time to make meaning of your experience. It's the time just to be with what is arising. Just to witness it. Cultivating the witness. And then, what's very important is you need to transcend good and bad. If you keep seeing certain things as good, and so this is good, I want to reach this state, and these states, emotional states, are bad, these judgments are bad, you're going to be stuck in a loop, and you're going to be stuck in this loop for a long, long time. But what the moment of realization is you see this loop that you've been in. So the seeker is seen. So oftentimes people get stuck in this continuous unease with the present moment as if they're going to find it in the next moment. And a whole realization is just to see that as it was. Not as the seeker. As the awareness. So, like I said, it's very subtle, but it's for real. It's a real experience. And so people say nothing changes. I disagree. I think things do change. There's no doubt about it. I mean, the first time I had this realization, I popped out of my ego structure, and I never went fully back in. I can always see it now. It all happened in one moment. I told you about the day in the park doing the shadow work in a previous video. I never fully went back into the ego, so I can always see the structures now. So essentially, these structures we put in place, we develop, the seeker, what you realize is once you have this realization, you come out of the seeker for a moment, and then even though you don't fully go back in, you go in a little bit, and there's at least for me, and it feels like you're going back into a prison. And that's what it feels like. And in that moment, you realize, though, what's amazing is you realize that in itself is a form of protection. Because when you pop out, it's just there's so much love, but you're just totally in the moment. And to be that fully in the moment without needing to understand what's going to happen next, or to control. Control is the word really I'm looking for. Without needing to control life. It's scary. It really is. It's to be completely free. And so we develop these strange, very subtle neuroses to protect ourselves from, and the only word I can use is God. Just completely in the moment, completely in the flow. So we need to control the moment. We need to understand the moment. We need to judge this emotion and that emotion. No, it's just a flow of life. It's completely beautiful. It's so some people talk about it's just the experience itself is all that the whole thing was designed. It's the experience itself. There's and we try to understand it, which is I think it's good to have portions in which we try to intellectually understand life. It's part of it, but we get stuck in it, and it's the experience itself of life. So hopefully that will bring you some insights to your own practice. Peace.